5 minutes a day. 40 minutes of training every week. 6 movements. Does this actually work? Or is it just someone selling a dream? Only one way to find out. Well, what exactly are the 6 movements? These 6 movements are split up into 3 categories, which is push, pull, and legs, which is a split that many of us use for working out. But what makes this different is that he actually further then splits them up into 2 movements, which is vertical and horizontal, which applies to push and pull. But legs is a bit different, it's actually squat and a knee flexion. We'll go into further details as the video goes on. Day 1, vertical pull. Now, the main training philosophy that Jack emphasizes in most of his training is negatives. Not any normal negatives, specifically forced negatives. Now, as you can see that I am jumping to the top of the pull-up and trying to resist my way down. And of course, normally for the positive, I would use 3 or 2 fingers. But for the negative, I can actually find myself putting my fingers further apart, increasing the resistance, as you can see. But of course, I'm not really resisting that much for the movement. I'm dropping early. It is a very intense movement. So now we are doing a pseudo plank push-up, but we are leaning so far until we are getting forced down, which is a sticking point and the main part of the movement we want to train, as that is what's going to make us most gain. Most limited thing, the problem about this movement is the limiting factor is your wrists and your wrist flexibility, which can affect range of motion and overall effectiveness of the movement. That's why after this, I started to actually train on the rings, started to load my body weight via how much weight's on my hands, how much weight's on my feet. And I found that to be way more effective than just leaning forward. This is a good movement, because of course, in a real planche, you're gonna have to be leaning forward, and you're gonna need that wrist flexibility. But for strength gains, it's not the best, in my opinion, from my experience. The main variable is how close or how far your wrists are to your center of mass. And your center of mass is usually around your hip area, so the more you lean, the more you get that center of mass and get that planche. Now we move on to the leg squat. And for this movement, we are actually training a single leg squat. And what is the main goal for this one? Well, this one is a single leg squat with 75% of your body weight loaded on with weights. Now, you may be wondering, the squat I'm doing doesn't really look like a squat. It looks like a very messy, incomplete squat that I'm using my hands to assist me with. And that is actually the key to this movement, is, as Jack emphasizes, failing. And that is, of course, with force negative, but these aren't normal force negatives. As you can see, I'm actually actively failing during the positive while doing negative. So it's more so of a partial positive and negative throughout the whole movement, which I found to be very, very effective on my legs as my legs were finished the next day. Now we move on to the second part of the leg day, which is knee flexion. Basically a counter action to the squat we just trained, because this is more of a pulling motion rather than a pushing motion of the legs. And the main variable for this one, for Nordic, which is what's the exercise called Nordic curl, is how hinged we are at the hips and how much assistance we're using from our fingers. As you can see, I'm using some assistance for the negatives and the positive to help myself up. And we would just continue to set until another important philosophy that Jack really emphasizes as well, which is keeping it fun. And when we set, starts to become less fun and starts to become more so you're drawing it out, be able to perform at maximal intensity. That's when you stop. Sounds strange, but if you do research into this, when our brain finds something fun, it tends to push further, and when it isn't, then it just becomes useless workload basically. And that's the main thing we are here looking for as well when we are training all these movements. Is it fun? Is it still fun, or is it not? And that is leg day done. Now we move on to horizontal pull. This movement follows a very similar pattern to the horizontal push, as this is basically counteraction to that movement, as they both have the same variables, which is how close your hands and wrists are to your hips, your center of mass basically. And how we make sure we're training that is during any progression we are doing, whether that's easy foot assisted one or a full front lever. We'll make sure to push rings to our center of mass, which is our hips, and that can make a level 1 exercise to a level 5 because it just adds so much more resistance and so much more torque and leverage to your shoulders that even experienced athletes can find this intense. And that's the main thing we need to focus on, making sure that each part of the movement is as intense as it can be. Not focusing much on the progressions, just focusing on making sure that we are giving our all and struggling at each part of the movement. And I just continue this for a couple of minutes. When I started to find it not fun, ended it there. Day 5, a vertical push. And unfortunately, I didn't decide to record a full workout for this one, so only have some short clips. So we'll just do what we can with these. So the main variable for this one is pretty simple actually. It's how much weight is on your hands and how much weight is on your feet. And we can change this variable by using chairs, using things to elevate our hips to further increase the lean. But one thing I did find wrong with this movement was I felt limited by my flexibility and stability because chairs aren't always stable, and of course doing force negatives you could fall on your head and hurt yourself, so it was a bit of a sketchy movement. Now for the results. We're going to start off with vertical pull, and before with my right hand I could actually do 2 finger assisted 1-arm pull-ups, which were not even full range of motion as I was kipping and not resisting for the full movement on the negative as well. Same with the left hand by myself, jumping to trying to jump to the top of the pull-up, not even get my chin over the bar, and not even resisting fully, especially at the bottom portion of the 1-arm pull-up. Now this is the after results, and I actually found myself able to do 1-arm pull-ups with 1 finger, which was my middle finger, and for the negatives I actually switched to a weaker finger, which was my pointer finger. And I found for the negatives that I was actually able to resist a lot at the top, be able to chill there and just stop myself. Now, am I happy with these results? I would say so, for this one skill, which is the 1-arm pull-up. But what really got me was I didn't really see any strength carry over to skills like muscle-ups or even reps for pull-ups. Like, I can't do many pull-ups. But that was my main problem with this vertical pull workout, is I didn't really cover many endurance or explosive aspects. Now we move on to horizontal pull. Now, after I actually managed to get a max progression of at 3 to 5 seconds on the advanced tuck, and single leg front lever, not the best form. And to be honest, comparing this to my before results, I didn't really see much progress. Apart from maybe a couple seconds longer hold, it's not the best. Now we move on to vertical push, and before you can see I was using a chair to assist me for the negative and the positive. It was okay. The rings as well didn't help with stability, but after I actually managed to get a near full handstand push-up with wall assisted, which was very good, and I actually am happy with that progress. Now horizontal push, and after results for this one was a tuck plunge for 6 seconds, which wasn't really much of a difference compared to my previous results where I could hold a tuck plunge for maybe 2 to 3 seconds. So I'm not the happiest with this. Now we move on to squat, and on my right leg I could actually manage to do 22.5 kilo single leg squat and I feel like I go even higher, but unfortunately I didn't have enough weight for that. But on my left leg, that was lacking behind, as I could only do a 17.5 kilo single leg squat. Not even by itself, with it. I had to use some of my foot to assist me through the movement. So I am happy with some results on my right leg, but I can see some imbalances are forming. Now, knee flexion is a harder skill to measure, but I did find on the after results that I could actually pull further and use less of my hands as assistance. But overall, this one is a bit of a slower progression. So after training the most potent training technique for a month, these are the key lessons that I've learned. Firstly, static skills like planche, front lever, they're not best trained like with this training technique. As I found that you need proper skill training, you need to actually do planche holds. But this workout didn't have any of the static holds. And another thing I noticed was unilateral imbalances. This was very apparent in the squat movement we were training in leg day. Not in pull day, because one arm pull up, I found that I could actually evenly measure the progress, but the single leg squat, each rep was so messy, the whole thing was so intense that I didn't even know that I was pushing way more my right than my left, because I was just used to the technique and everything just being messy and grinding through it. And that was the main problem for me, because I never had this severe imbalance, because I always used to train bilateral movements. But that was something I've noticed. Now, another thing that really got to me was the linear progression, because yes, I was progressing decently okay in some of the skills and very good in some other skills, but the lackluster of progression between endurance, explosive, and other aspects of these movements was very lackluster. Pull-ups, couldn't really do many. Explosive, couldn't really do much. And same with legs. Like, yes, you have strong legs, but you need to have explosive. It's like missing key aspects. But the good thing is I've noticed is each training session was fun. And when something's fun, you tend to give more into it. And as it was such a tiny amount of my day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I could find myself being way more consistent with working out. But the real question is, what am I going to do moving forward? Now, I like this training regimen, but I can definitely see some holes and some things that I can edit to my goals. And I can say, for example, pull day. Yes, I want to get good one-arm pull-up, but I can add some pull-ups in there because there's no pull-up motion. Say for legs, yes, you want to do that single leg, but you want to have some bilateral movements, so explosive movements in there. Same with push, you want to get some explosive. Same, basically just adjust it and tweak it. Of course, I love his philosophy of keep it short and intense, focused. Because most of the work that gets you results is usually like 5 to 10%. The rest is just useless workload that we usually just find ourselves doing a lot. But I will definitely, most definitely, be applying this to my future workouts and training regimens in the future. But those are the main things that I wanted to say about this. And if you made it to the end, thank you, Jazakallah. And inshallah, I'll be uploading way more and doing a lot more of these experiments, 30-day challenges, etc. Now, I'll see you guys later. Allah Hafiz.